As you can see, now that I've painted over it, the background is a solid black. And you're going to want to repeat this process as you go up. As you can see, the gray has the same cutout issue, so I'll just repeat the process using the light gray and the white, and then the light gray will get the same treatment. The white you don't need to do it for because the white will be top layer. So let's just select that. And now that I have it selected, I'm going to want to make sure I use my dropper tool so I get that proper tone of gray. And then take the brush tool, paint it over, and then I'll do it one more time for my white. You definitely want to make sure you use this dropper tool a lot so you have the proper tones of grays and such. It can get a little confusing if you have more than one tone of gray, even though they're separated out into different layers. Alright, now I have my image totally layered out. As you can see, if I undo the layers here, you can see the progression in which they go. You start off with black, then gray, then light gray, and then white. Now, when you're making the stencil, you want to have one thing that you definitely check. Your solid black layer is going to be fine, but once you start layering up, you have to make sure that you don't have floating islands. And what I mean by that, those are areas that are inside of your gray, or your other layer, that are black and see-through. So, let's say on this layer, this area right here, where his eye would be, is completely open, and that won't work because when you go to cut the stencil, that piece just can't be hanging there. It has to be attached. Stencils have to be solid pieces. So what I'll do is I'll take the brush tool and I'll touch up all these floating areas. You don't always have to fill them in. Sometimes you can get a little creative and find ways to work them in using bridges and lines. But you have to make sure that you have this, otherwise your stencil will not be one solid piece. There are some areas though where you're not just going to want to fill in with a paintbrush, and you're going to want to make actual bridges. And the way you do that is you just take the erase tool and just kind of erase lines in so you don't lose some of your detail. The best way when you're making bridges is to make sure you're not making straight lines, and you're not making lines across areas where they will seem odd or out of place. You always want to make sure that when you make a line, it seems somewhat fluid and is actually part of the image. So as I look over my image here, I can see that I've gotten rid of pretty much all the islands that there are. And you're going to want to repeat this step for every single layer. So as I go up to the light gray, I can see that there's these floating areas here. But I want to leave in some of these floating areas because they add a lot of good detail. So I'll just take my erase tool and kind of fill in the gaps. You see his eye here is kind of slinged off, so I'll just erase that back. Looks alright. And from what I can tell, there are pretty much no other islands. And then go to the white layer. That looks just fine. So now I have my completed stencil image. From here you can print. As you can see, it's totally layered out and ready to go. And to print, it can be very simple. If you just want to make a small sized image, just only have one layer visible at a time. Go to File, Print, and then you're going to want to fit scale to media, and that'll fit it completely to your piece of paper. And then just print each layer once, making sure that each time that is the only visible layer, and it'll separate them all out. A good thing to do when you're printing though is go through your image and of course save before you do this, but go through your image and take everything and turn it to black or whatever gray you'd like to use. This way it'll be a lot easier to cut out and it'll definitely stand out more from the paper. By doing this you get more of a contrast with the white. And you also want to make sure you do this on any layers that are light gray or white, because they might not show it up at all on your paper. Alright, and That's how you make yourself a multi-layer stencil.